Hey, what's up everybody? Today I'm just going to be showing you guys how to do the air brake tests in California as of 2025. So right here we're on I believe it's a 2017 Freightliner Cascadia, of course. It's a manual. So there's 4 air brake tests you have to do for the DMV. Your first test is called the air gauge and governor cutoff check. But before we even do that, at least at our school, we're going to check a few things first with our computer. So what we always do is a safety start, and a safety start is just checking a few things on the computer and making sure the vehicle is in a safe position to get started. So that includes making sure your shifter is in neutral. Just wiggle it so it is. Both of your parking brakes are engaged. Give them a pull so they're engaged, they're on. And now we'll flip our key 1 notch to just turn on our avionics. First thing we'll check is make sure all those needles sweep, so we know the gauges are working. If one needle didn't sweep, then we have a faulty gauge. And then next we'll check to make sure all those warning lights came on and off. Just waiting for there it is. So now all the warning lights were on but have now turned off. Specifically mention that your ABS right here in this truck turned on but is now off. Your fuel level, we are just under half of a tank, so that's perfect for our trip. Our def is full, as you can see, the 4 green bars, that's enough for our trip as well. Okay, then after you check that, now we'll go ahead and turn on our engine to begin our very first air brake test. So to start the engine, I have to push in the clutch. I'm going to hover my foot over the service brake just in case someone wants to rear-end me or anything. I'm prepared to stop, or if we're to somehow move, I am prepared to hit the brake. Now we'll turn over the engine, turn it on. Okay. As soon as I turn it on, making sure my RPMs are at a steady normal rate, which they are. Now I'm checking my oil pressure. I'm not going to read what it's at. I'm just going to make sure it has risen. It's not at 0. Next, I'll move on. This is my primary air gauge, as you see with the P right there. This is my secondary air gauge. You can see with the S right there. But today, we're only going to be looking at our primary. As you see, they're already kind of reading different numbers. So it's very important you let them know which one you're looking at, because you don't want them looking at a different one. They'll get different numbers. So right now, we're doing our air gauge and governor cutoff check. Right now, I know the air gauge is working because it's building pressure. But right now, it's actually not building pressure because we have just started the vehicle. And if you start over 100 PSI, it's not going to build to a cutoff. Super simple to fix it. I'm just going to fan my brake under 100 so it'll build as normal. Usually when you get in for your test, it's going to be, your pressure is going to be bled all the way down, so you don't have to do that or mention that. But so right now, my air pressure is normally building, so I know the air gauge is working, needle's rising. I have to build my air pressure to between 120 and 140 PSI. That is when the governor has to cut off, and in this truck, the governor is set to cut off at 135 PSI. And once you say that, now you're just waiting for the pressure to build. A lot of the times you can rev it up to 1,000 to build the pressure faster. But on your test, I would recommend just waiting because you don't want to be rushed. You know, it's your test day, it's not the examiner's day, so you take your time. Now we're just waiting for our air pressure to build in our primary air gauge. Remember, it has to cut off in between 120 and 140. Every little notch is 20 increments, except for where the red starts, that is 70 for your low air system, which we'll cover later. Okay, I'm not sure if the video, you can hear that, but we just heard an audible sneeze noise, or you could also call it a purge noise, and that indicates that your governor should have cut off. You see, an abnormal instance is sometimes the governor will not actually cut off the air. So we're going to always make sure the governor did cut off the air because the needle's not rising. So my needle's not rising. Now I'm going to read the needle precisely. So if that's 120, I would say right now it's at 125, because that's 140, that's 120. It has to cut off in between there, those two lines. Usually this truck is set to cut off at 135, but various factors, it won't always happen then. So right now it cut off at 125, and that's good because it's in between 120 and 140. So always make sure you restate what the requirement was so they know, you know, it's good. So as a quick recap, as soon as I heard that sneeze noise, I'm going to acknowledge the governor did cut off because the needle's not rising. Cut off at 125. That's good because it's in between 120 and 140. Then finally, I'm going to check outside the vehicle, make sure I don't hear any leaks, abnormal noises. No warning lights have come up on my dash. Therefore, that test is good. Now, your next test is the air leakage test. Basically, going to be checking for how much leak the system will have after applying the service brake and disengaging your parking brakes. So to start this test, you turn the engine off because you have to lose pressure. If you lose pressure with the engine on, it's just gonna build it back up. So turn the engine off. Turn your computer back on because you need your gauge to work. People forget that a bit, but I mean, it should make sense. You have to have the gauge to work. So wait for your gauge to work to sweep back up. Okay, make sure don't read it yet. No point in reading it. Now I'm gonna disengage both my tractor and trailer brakes. I'm gonna push them in. I'm waiting for the needle to settle there. And usually you'll have chocks on, but as an extra precaution, a lot of times you can throw it into gear. Just throw it in the first gear, and that'll also prevent you from rolling back. But the chocks should usually be enough. Okay, so I've disengaged my parking and trailer brakes. The needle has dropped. I'm not going to read it yet. I'm going to fully engage my service brake. Wait for my needle. Fully engage the service brake. I'm holding it down as much as I can. The pressure is now at exactly 100 psi. Now I'm going to time a minute, and I cannot lose more than 4 psi in the timed minute. So right here, our truck's convenient. We have a little timer. I will start that. You wait the whole minute during the test, but you know, for training purposes, we'll just simulate I held a minute. Okay, the minute is over. I can release my service brake after the minute. So our pressure is still exactly at 100 psi. So I lost 0. That's good because I cannot lose more than 4 psi. So after the minute, always make sure to tell them what the pressure's at after the minute. Always tell them how many you lost. Did you lose 1, 0, 2, whatever? And then make sure you acknowledge you didn't lose more than 4 psi. And then finally, once I check that, I'm gonna again make sure I don't hear any leaks, abnormal noises. No warning lights have come up on the dash, so therefore that test is also good. Now our next test is the low air warning devices test. Basically going to be checking to make sure the truck will display a warning light and buzzer at or above 55 psi. Or you could word it by saying the light and buzzer have to turn on before the pressure drops below 55. So basically they have to be on before the needle is under 55 is what that is meaning. And then this truck is set to turn my light and buzzer on at 65 psi. So we'll see when it turns on. Okay, ABS light came on, but that's of no concern. Okay, so as you see the warning light and here my buzzer is on. They initially turned on at 70 psi, and that's good because it has to be at or above 55. Then again, I don't hear any air leaks outside the vehicle. I don't hear any abnormal noises. No warning lights have come on besides my low air warning light, of course. And as you see right now, the air pressure is rising a little bit. So I'm gonna just give it one extra pump just so they stay on, because the light and buzzer cannot turn off on the test. And if they do, you just have to pump it again so they stay on. So now that I know my light and buzzer will stay on, that test is good. Okay, now your final air brake test is called the emergency brake test, or you could call it your pop-out test. You're gonna make sure your trailer and parking brakes will engage themselves, pop out, in between 45 and 20 PSI. And this truck is set to engage my trailer brake at 45 and my tractor parking brake at 25 PSI. So we'll see when they happen. I'm gonna point a lot. Going to lose pressure. Okay, my trailer brake has just popped out at 40 PSI. That's good because it has to pop out between 45 and 20 PSI. Now let's continue and see when our tractor brake pops out. There it goes. My tractor parking brake has just popped out as predicted at 25 PSI. That's also good because it has to pop out between 45 and 20 PSI. Now I'm going to check once more for leaks outside the vehicle, abnormal noises, warning lights. So that test is good. And those are all 4 of your air brake tests. It's super simple. A lot of people struggle with this, but it's just trying to tell them what you're checking things for. You know, think the who, what, why, when, here, all that stuff. You know, what's supposed to happen, when is it supposed to happen, and why is it supposed to happen. So like your first test, what's going to happen? Well, my governor is going to cut off. When's it supposed to happen? Between 120 and 140. Why is it going to happen? To stop the air from building. You know, your low air test, what's going to happen? The low air warning light and buzzer are going to turn on. When is it going to happen? Well, it has to happen at or above 55. Why? Because it needs to warn me that my air is getting low before it's all the way depleted. Like this, the air brakes are super simple if you just think of what's going to happen, when's going to happen, and why is it supposed to happen. And then a few questions I also do get is like saying what the truck is set for. So every truck has a manufacture point of when something's going to happen. Like I said earlier, this truck is set to cut off at 135. So it doesn't actually have to happen at that number. It's just something you kind of have to say and acknowledge. External factors will change that. You know, it's a machine. Nothing is perfect. So in that case, the truck is set to cut off at 135, but it cut off at 125. There's no problem in that. It just has to be within the legal range of 120 and 140. Or earlier, like the low air test I did, I said the truck is set to turn the light and buzzer on at 65. Well, it turned on at 70. That's fine because it was still above 55. So what you say the truck is set for doesn't actually have to happen. Let me turn the buzzer off. Doesn't actually have to happen at the point you said it's set for. It just has to happen above or at the certain requirement, legal requirement for that test. So I hope that made sense, guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you're interested in training in Southern California by Huntington Beach in the surrounding area, I'll drop a link in the description of our school. It's called HB CDL Driving Academy.